Welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Hartley. This podcast exists to equip and inspire your heart-centered leadership. Every week, we bring interviews with some of the greatest heart sets and mindsets on the planet. I hope the heartprint of our time spent together is that it creates new possibilities for you and all those you come into contact with. If you'd like to explore what we could make possible for you, then head to abty.co.uk/connect and book in a free 30-minute call to begin our journey together. I just want to express a huge amount of gratitude to our sponsors, Exhale Coffee. I have been a big fan of Exhale Coffee since meeting Alex and the team back in 2022. Exhale is the first coffee to be sourced, roasted and lab tested specifically to maximize its antioxidant and anti-inflammatory potency. An independent lab test has shown that 1 cup of Exhale Coffee has the same antioxidant power as 1.8 kilos of blueberries or 55 oranges. I'm a huge fan, and Mrs. H loves the decaf, especially because she knows that Exhale use the mountain water decaffeination process, which uses only pure glacial water from the highest mountain in Mexico and no nasty chemicals. Simply head to exhalecoffee.com/ABTY for your special offer. And lastly, before I introduce this week's guest, please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would really help us leave a greater heartprint on this world. It's an honour to welcome Kute Blackson to the podcast. Kute's a beloved inspirational speaker and transformational teacher. He's the author of the national bestselling book You.Are.The.One and The Magic of Surrender. He's widely considered the next generation leader in the field of personal development. Kute brings a fresh and bold look at spiritual awareness for a whole new generation. Born in Ghana, West Africa, Kute's multicultural upbringing as the child of a Japanese mother and a Ghanaian father has spanned 4 different continents. His unique lineage lay the foundation for his approach to breaking down barriers and unlocking an individual's true gifts and greatness. Kute has been inspiring audiences around the world from the very first time he spoke to a crowd of 3,000 people at the age of 8 years old. His mission is simple: to awaken and inspire people across the planet to access inner freedom, live authentically, and fulfill their true life's purpose. It's episode 260 with Kute Blackson. Kute, welcome to the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast. How are you, brother?
Thanks for having me.
Really good to see. Where are you in the world today?
I'm in sunny Los Angeles.
Send us some sunshine.
Hollywood.
Send us some sunshine. It is typically English today. It's grey, it's raining. I understand you spent a bit of your childhood living in London. Is that right?
Yes, from age 3 to 18. So we could say my formative years, growing up in South London, primarily Brixton, Dulwich, Peckham, Thornton Heath, Surrey. So I know London very well.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about miracles, and I think so much of like our civilization has lost touch with this belief in miracles. It's almost like a over intellectualization. We've almost made science our new religion. And the old master Jesus, he once said to Thomas, he said, you believe because you've seen, but even blessed are those who believe without seeing. And that's such a powerful call to action for so many people. But I think I'd love to start with the fact that you were blessed with the opportunity to see many miracles. You know, I think even your father even had a moniker as the miracle man of Africa. Like, I guess, what does that do to a kid who gets to see miracles like that delivered by the hand of your father? You know, that must open up some possibilities.
I grew up seeing blind people see and deaf people hear and people stand up out of wheelchairs. And my father, people would pick up the gravel, the sand that my father walked on, wipe it on their face and stand up. And he didn't even know. He was just walking. And so he would look at a person in a wheelchair, say, hey, stand up. You're not sick. Or somebody would come in with crutches and he would say, why do you have crutches? Do you believe? Do you believe in the power of the infinite spirit? Do you believe in God? Yeah, I do. Then why the hell do you have crutches? Throw them away. And if they believed, somehow they would start walking. And so, the truth is, I didn't think anything special about this. I didn't think anything extraordinary about it. To truth be told, I just thought it was ordinary. I just thought this was
Yeah.
how everyone's life was. I think it was a blessing because I didn't know anything different. I didn't know
Mm,
anything else. And I think that was a blessing because I grew up with this sense that everything was possible. I grew up
yeah.
with the sense of the possibilities of life. I grew up with the sense like this shit was normal. And so in that
Yeah.
sense, it wasn't anything woo-woo. It was just the way it was. You know, you wake up, you go play soccer, you brush your teeth, you have a sandwich, and then yeah, miracles happen. It's just the normalness of things. And I think what as
Yeah.
I've grown older, what amazes me too is as adults, we have also lost touch with the miraculousness of life in each
Mm,
moment. People will often say to me, "Oh, like, did that stuff really happen? Did, oh my God."
yeah. Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
truth is, if anybody wants to see a miracle, I could show you right now. Just go to the mirror and look in the freaking mirror.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
how miraculous is that?
Yeah.
That literally inside of you right now, there are trillions and trillions of cells
Yeah.
interacting just for you and I to be able to have this conversation,
Yeah.
just for someone
Mhm.
listening, for you to be able to even listen. You
Mm,
had breakfast this morning, lunch this afternoon, dinner in the evening, and maybe you had a sandwich, maybe you had a turkey, maybe you're vegan, you had a tofu turkey, whatever it was. But somehow you ate this thing, you ingested food.
mm.
How does your body and this intelligence inside of your body know how to take this food and digest it and extract the nutrition and it goes to all the places in your body? Like, what is it that is digesting your food? What is it that's beating your heart? And so I think there
Yeah.
are miracles happening inside of us. The truth is, if we look around at life, if we, the
Mm,
sun, the clouds, what the hell is a cloud? Like, we look at this stuff like,
mm.
there's a cloud, there's a sun, there's a moon, it's just normal. But if you really think about it,
Yeah. 100%.
it's freaking miraculous. But I think in many ways, we don't allow ourselves to just tune into that dimension of reality so that we can experience like the wow of each moment, the wow of
Yeah.
nature, the wow of life, the wow of everything. And so I think everything is a miracle. We
Yeah.
just like to be able to, I think that was your kid in the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I
Delivering me
mean,
a cup of tea.
like think about this.
Yeah.
Like 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, this little kid was not in your
Right.
life. And,
Right.
and yet where did he
Mm,
come from? Just incarnated out of your lovemaking, out of love, out of this relationship of someone that
mm,
you just met, fell in love with. Now you create another entity, and there's another living, breathing
mm.
organism that is moving, living, walking, bringing you a cup of tea and, loving you, daddy, daddy, daddy.
That was
And
a miracle. Yeah.
that's a miracle. I mean, looking into your kid's eyes
Yeah.
and seeing such profound love. I mean, come on. This is the whenever I look into my son's eyes, my son is 10 months old.
Ah,
And when I walk in the room and he just lights up like, oh my God, daddy's here. That is a miracle. But how often do we not appreciate it? Do we not acknowledge it? Do we not celebrate it? So for me, yeah, these miracles that my dad seemed to perform were great. But I think every moment is a miracle that we need
mm,
to start acknowledging. I think part of it is to start acknowledging the miracle that is every moment. But also, I think that the fact that as human beings, we've all been through so much. Many of us, we have had challenging childhoods.
mm.
People, some have been raped and abused and neglected and abandoned and betrayed and beaten and hurt and, divorce and pain and trauma. And yet, we grow up and we still want to love. We grow up and we have the capacity to forgive those that have hurt us. We grow up and
Mm.
we still listening to this podcast, reaching for the light, wanting to be a good person despite the pain that we've been through, despite having all the logical reasons to not open one's heart again. Here we
Yeah.
are doing the inner healing work to try to
Yeah.
to fulfill our potential. This is a miracle. Like, as human beings, man, we're miracles. So anyway, that's kind
Love
of
that,
my
man.
perspective.
Heart open, and so this podcast is for heart-centered leaders, and we have conversations with great people all around what it means to be a heart-centered leader, and so much of the goodness that you put out into the world is about equipping and encouraging people to open up that heart, having those awakening moments. And I think 5, 6 years ago, I wasn't awakened to a conversation like this. I wasn't capable of having the ears to hear, even a message of surrender. I think I think a culture without God makes gods of their culture. And we're in a culture of selfie,
Yeah.
and I was definitely the god, right? I'd work my face off, I'll make stuff happen. And surrender was never going to be on my radar. It would have been passive, it would have been giving up. Like,
Weak.
man, like now to be able to have this conversation with you as someone who's put out a book called The Magic of Surrender, like the paradox and the irony is not lost on me.
Yeah, I mean, I think, okay, obviously, and this is for everyone listening, right? When we talk about surrender, people might be thinking, this is weak, it's passive. But here's the thing, and this is a question for everyone listening. Have you ever had sex? I want everybody. Let's take it for, we'll go deep into the spiritual for a moment, but let's take it out of the woo-woo spiritual, especially for sort of leaders that are, take charge kinds of people. Think of your most beautiful lovemaking experience where you were orgasmic, in ecstasy, lovemaking, blissful, orgasmic, joyful, like ecstatic. Think of your most, it doesn't even have to be the most blissful. I mean, most lovemaking is quite blissful. And so think of just a blissful lovemaking experience. I want everybody to think about it. And think about for a second, what made it so blissful? Was it because you came to your lovemaking experience like, hey, honey, so we're going to make love right now for about 3 hours and 33 minutes. I have a plan. I've created an entire lovemaking business plan, and the first minute you're going to do these 17 moves on me, and then after like 22 minutes, I'm going to do this, and this on you. And like, do you go to lovemaking with a freaking notebook and a plan and the entire process scripted out, trying to control everything? Hell no. What makes it blissful? What makes it joyful? What makes it ecstatic is because you surrendered, because you let go, because you trusted the flow in the moment, because you dare to transcend yourself, because you weren't thinking and trying to control. And so surrender for me is the most powerful thing that we can do. Surrender for me is the real secret to manifestation. Surrender truly is actually the real secret to leadership, because a true leader is not following the conditioned identity of their ego and patterns. A true leader is surrendered to a purpose, a calling that is bigger than him or herself. And a true leader is a follower. They're following something bigger than themselves, a vision, a mission. Look at Gandhi, look at Jesus, look at Mother Teresa, look at Martin Luther King. They were following something that was bigger than them, and that's what called them forward. And so I believe that surrender is the real password to freedom. And when we all think, here's the thing, in our culture today, when we think about surrender, we have this misconception that surrender is weak, that surrender is passive, that surrender is giving up, that surrender is waving the white flag, that surrender is being a doormat, that surrender means you're going to be taken advantage of and be left behind, and that you won't manifest your goals, your dreams, your desires, that you're going to get less in life. And I'm actually saying no. If you understand the real essence, the real meaning of true surrender, what if you didn't get less in life, but what if you actually got more than you could have, more than you could have planned, more than you could have planned with the limitedness of your small ego self? What if it was maybe not what you expected, but what if it was more? What if it was better? What if it was different? And so when we talk about surrender, just to set the context for the conversation, surrender is a letting go of control, or I should say the illusion that we're in control. And control is a master addiction, by the way. Surrender is when you stop trying to force and manipulate life to fit your limited idea of how you think it should be, and who you think you should be, and how you think things should look, and how you think a relationship should be. And so it's when you take the limitations off of life, and you give up the way you think life should be, so that you can be available and open to life showing you, to life revealing to you, to life guiding you. The old paradigm, you talk about selfing, right? The old paradigm that we're taught, especially in self-help, I call it the ego-based model for living life, which is all about, what do I want? Me, I, selfingness, right? What do I want? And what I have found is you might get everything that you thought you wanted, only to realize at that point that what you thought you wanted was not what you really wanted. You know, the
Yeah.
car, the house, it was just what you
Yeah.
thought you wanted based on who you thought you were. And
Yeah.
so for me, the real question isn't like, what do you want? Okay, it's nice to get clear on what you want to a certain level. And you can manifest that way, but it would always lead to limitation because
Yes.
you're creating from the ego, and the ego is a result of conditioning based on past experience, which is limited. We're not able to see the whole picture. And
Yeah.
so the true, you could say, path of surrender asks a different question. And the
Yeah.
question is, what is it? It's an infinite question. What is it that life is seeking to manifest through me? What is it that life is seeking to express through me? What is it that life is seeking to create through me? What is it that life is seeking to unfold through me? And then you can expand your perception, not to the self, but you can expand your listening and perception to the infinite possibilities of life. Then you're truly available and open and receptive to receiving and catching the vision of life itself, which is source of all knowing. Then you catch the vision, then you can go into action, then you can make a plan, then you can strategize, then you can deploy your marketing and your planning and your resources, go into action 100% without being attached to the outcome. So for me, that is the sort of foundation of surrender.
Powerful, because I think what that then makes you is a participant with the greatest life source, isn't it? It's not rather than own personal sources, we're a participant with. One of the things that I think is really powerful is there's about three things I want to look back to what you've just said. But one of the things is I think sometimes the ego, because the ego is separate from divinity, you know, the belief, you know, it's rooted in, I guess, the dualism of this plane. It's operating in separate, you know, separation, and therefore it can be made to believe that it lacks, that it does not have that already. So, you know, what are some of the ways with which we can maybe discern between whether our soul or our egos speaking to us with our wants and our desires?
Yeah, I want to break down the ego in a second, right? But what I will say is often how you can discern is a resonance and a feeling. Often when it's ego, you're pushing and you're forcing. So there's a contractive feeling, there's a tightness, there's a restriction. Often when it's ego, you're coming from a place of lack, and there's a drive to try to achieve something so that I can feel happy. And you're depending on some objective experience, or you're waiting for some objective experience to happen so that you can feel good. So you're like not feeling great, and you're like, I can't wait till that happens so that I can finally feel okay. And so there's a dependency on something outside of yourself needing to be different. But
Leading
when
to
you're
addictions, if we find something that does that, that's where addictions come from, right?
Yep. And it never fulfills, right? And so when you're coming from soul, there's usually a peace, there's usually a calm, not that it's always easy, but there's usually kind of a deeper knowing, a deeper relaxation, a deeper like, this feels different. And you're coming from fulfillment. You're not looking for validation in the external world, or dependent on the external world being different in any way. And so those are a few things that I think, you know, you will experience, I think, more flow than force. And that's a key distinction. Am I forcing? Am I flowing? Now, what I do want to say is, I think it's important that we just break down real quick the notion of the ego, since we're throwing around that term. I want to say that ego isn't the enemy, and ego isn't bad. We don't have to annihilate the ego, kill the ego, destroy the ego, because all attempts, and you know, often spirituality talks about, you know, the ego's bad, the ego's the enemy, you got to destroy the ego. All that, you could say that is in and of itself ego. Ego cannot destroy ego, and the impetus to annihilate, destroy, get rid of, you know, eradicate ego actually reinforces ego even more.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
so
the last
ego, just so people, you know, can be clear, ego is not good or bad. Ego is just a vehicle in this three-dimensional human experience that consciousness source, your soul, uses to navigate this world. And so a ego is not a thing. A thing is like, here is a phone, here is a pen. Ego is not a thing. Ego is a process of identification. A bicycle is a thing. Pedaling is a process. And so when pedaling stops, it's yeah. So ego is the process of identifying with name, with body, with physical form, with past experiences, emotions, memories, pain, belief systems, and the degree to which we hold on and identify oneself as all of those things. That is ego. It is the process of holding on. It's not actually a real thing. So when we can understand what ego is and what ego isn't, we can start to change our relationship with ego and free ourselves from its grip. Because when we talk about surrender, right, it's ego that resists. Because ego doesn't want to change. Because when we talk about surrender and letting go and trusting the divine, it's ego that feels like surrender is a death to the ego. And that's why, out of good intention, well-meaning intention, ego resists surrender because ego is afraid. Oh shit, if I surrender, I'm going to die. So the job of the ego, when we understand the definition of ego, the job of the ego is to protect you from getting hurt, to make sure you never get hurt like you were hurt when you were 5. The job of the ego is to reinforce its existence. Ego doesn't want to change. Ego wants to stay the same, not because it's bad, it's just trying to keep you safe. Because here's the thing. When we were, this might also clarify something. When we were like a month old, we incarnated into this human experience. We were just free beings, right? You could say no ego. We didn't know right, wrong, good, bad. We didn't have fear. But slowly we met our parents, and God bless them, right? As parents, we're just doing the best that we know how to do based on our parents and our pain and our traumas. And so every one of us, we're born into a preset pattern of conditioning. Maybe dad is crazy. Maybe mom is an alcoholic. Maybe they were fighting all the time. Maybe there was instability. Maybe dad left. Maybe they were just really good people, but they just didn't know how to meet our emotional needs. And so what starts happening, you could say, is ego starts getting created. As little babies, little children, the conditioning process begins. Slowly, we start learning all sorts of strategies to shut down, disconnect, not feel the pain of, oh, my needs aren't being met. That's too painful. I don't like feeling helpless. So let me disconnect from my feelings. Let me suppress my feelings. Let me become independent. Let me just not care. Or there's so much instability in the household. Let me just try to fix everyone and fix everything and as a way to avoid certain feelings. So let me close my heart, disconnect, go into my mind, go into my brain, become so over analytical and suppress. And before you know it, we also start creating a role, a mask, a persona. Who do I need to be in order for mom and dad to love me? Oh, when I'm this way, daddy loves me. When I get all A's, mommy loves me. Every time I do XYZ, daddy says, good boy. And so we start contorting ourselves into a shape to become who we think we need to be in order for mom and dad to love us. And we hold so tightly to this way of being that we actually believe and think that this version of ourselves that we've become is who we are. And now we've become 15 and 18 and 25 and 35 and 45 and 55. We're like, this is just who I am. I'm just this way. I'm just shy. I'm just independent. And so what we have to be willing to question is who I am who I really am? Or is who I am what I've been conditioned to be? And what most of us don't realize is that who we are and how we're acting and how we're behaving is not who we really are. It's just a reaction and a result of conditioned responses to avoid pain and get love and approval. And that holding on is ego. When we understand that, we realize that surrendering and letting go of beliefs and identities and ways of being is not a death to who we really are. It's just a death to what we've been conditioned to be. And when we understand that what we've been conditioned to be is not what we really are, then we also understand that what we're surrendering and letting go of is not what we are. So there's a deeper dimension. And so when we understand that, we can begin to meet our fear and our resistance, the ego resistance to gotta work hard, gotta hustle. Oh my God, ego thinks if I can control everything, if I can control you by working hard, by hustling, by being a workaholic, by getting 15 million social media fans, by getting a car, a house, by being liked by everyone. If I can control life, I'm not going to get hurt and feel the pain that I felt when I was 5 and 7 and 2 and 11 and 13, when I was bullied. And that's never going to happen to me again. So ego is that reaction, and it's often a well-intended response. But what we have to learn is you don't have to force it. If we can understand what ego is, then we can begin to meet ego with compassion. We can begin to meet ourselves. We can begin to hold ourselves with love and tenderness and kindness. And that's when healing, and when we can hold our fear and our resistance and our reacting and our control with just some compassion, then you could say ego can begin to relax and healing can begin to happen, because healing is when we can apply loving to those parts of ourselves that are hurting.
Yeah, nothing to fix.
Nothing
to fix. Yes. That's powerful. Well, you've definitely just taken us back to church, that's for sure. With one of the things, I think that one of the last dying acts of the ego is to give the illusion of being spiritual. It's like, okay, fine, we're heading down this path. I'll become spiritual if I must.
Ego, I always say, one of the sneakiest places that ego hides is in spirituality.
Sure.
Ooh. Because I'm so spiritual, and you're not. Those people that just watch soccer on a Sunday, I'm so spiritual and they're not, is another identity that creates a sense of superiority and a sense of separation.
As I passively aggressive sign off, love and light, peace.
So yeah, we have to be aware. We have to be aware.
Yeah. One of the things that will have perked a few people up when you said, it's an illusion of control. I know many people, very, very highly effective leaders, but I'd quite openly say to them that they're control freaks, right?
Yes.
And what you've just done is you've just shattered this belief that they have control by calling it an illusion of control. What in the world do you mean that control's an illusion?
Okay. Steve Jobs, dead. Multi-billionaire, controlled Apple. Is he still here? Gone. Just like that. And so there's so much that we don't have control of. True. This like you think you control your son. And to a degree, I guess you can say, okay, you can't go out at this time, you can't go out at that time, but you can't control the thoughts in his mind. Yeah, we can brainwash our kids to think positive, but we can't control every thought that pops up in their mind. We can't completely control everything they do, everything they eat, when they poop, when they pee, when they're little babies. We're not in control. There's so much we can't control. And so I think we just have to realize, okay, there's so much in life we can't control. It's like we can't control the weather. We can't control the ocean. We can't control the waves.
Yes.
But what we can have a level of control of is how we show up. What we do have a level of control of is how we choose to interpret experiences. What we have a level of control of is how we respond and how we react. However, until to the degree we're conditioned is the degree to which we're not free. Because as much as we do have a level of control of how we respond and how we react, so much of how we react to events that are happening is determined by past experiences. The degree to which we're carrying pain and hurt and shame and resentment and unresolved trauma from the past, our current responses and actions aren't really in our control. Even though we think we're the one choosing and we think we have free will, we don't.
Yeah.
We're seeing life through the lens of our conditioning that is clouded by our past childhood issues, trauma, culture, patterns, religion, education system that is now being projected. So we think we're seeing freely, but we're actually not.
Yeah.
And so the only way you could say, start increasing our level of control is to do the inner healing.
Yes.
Because when we do the inner healing, to
Yes.
do the mental, emotional, psychological, spiritual healing,
yes,
we start letting go of pain and hurt and trauma from childhood and the past. We start clearing our nervous system. Our vibration shifts so that we can now start the screen of our consciousness gets clearer so that we can actually start seeing more clearly. Then we have more of a capacity to be able to respond to life.
Yes, with
then
love, from love.
From love, yeah, from love versus fear, from love versus reaction, from love versus need, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's powerful, isn't it? Which is why I think the tagline to your book is finding the courage to let go. Because this isn't an intellectual thing. I'm not going to come up with a list and go, right, we're on a leadership development program now. We're going to do some forgiveness work. We're going to do some letting go work. We're going to do some surrender. Like, no, thank you. Intellectually, I don't want to be doing that. I want to know how to sell more. I want to know how to build a team. And yet, like, this is probably some of the most powerful things we could do as human beings because of we're overcoming that chimp response with a chosen response, would be a much more conscious. I think, is it Viktor Frankl says that between action and reaction or something like that, like there's a gap, and in that gap lies our freedom.
Yeah.
And is exactly that what you're talking about? This work, this courageous work of the heart, is giving us access to something that enables us to bring more heaven on earth in this lifetime rather than passing on the hell to some other people.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the things I was reading your book on is that my ego was like, there's a particular section which you opened your book, and listeners will know that I lost my nan last year to cancer, and my ego was reading this story that you had, and I was like, oh, I wish my nan had that kind of faith and the belief, and then my soul was just like, no, everything was perfect, everything. I have no desire or wish to change anything. Like, I may not understand it in this lifetime, but whatever happened, and that was the way it was meant to happen. But I just love the grace and the beauty with which you open your book, and particularly as a testimony to your mother, and how much, like, that must just be such an absolute shaking experience to be able to see your mother go through what she went through, but have such unwavering faith. Do you mind talking to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, looking back, had it really sunk in that my mother was dying from the beginning, I would have been even more present. I would have showed up even more. I would have spent more time with her. I would have spent the whole year with her, because it doesn't really hit you until, like, oh shit, like, she's going. And at that point, there's just weeks left, And so I'm really grateful, because what started out as the worst year of my life honestly became the best year of my life, because I got to just spend time with my mom and be with my mom and hang out during chemo sessions with my mom and hold her hand. And it was so beautiful when I think back now. And I didn't even fully appreciate the magic of it in the moment, even though I did.
Yeah.
But we got to just do so many ordinary things, just take a walk in the park, all the things that I had deemed were a waste of time, that I didn't have time for, weren't important, didn't make time for Christmases because I was too busy, like, changing the world, were precious moments. And I got to really see and experience the miracle of those precious moments. Like, now I think back, the miracle of just seeing my mother wash dishes. Wow, what I would give for that miracle again. The miracle of just seeing my mother wrap some seaweed and rice to make fake Japanese sushi. Jeez, these normal moments, nothing miraculous, no blind seeing. But I realized those ordinary moments, that's the miracle of life that we often miss. And I missed so many of these ordinary moments. But, the blessing for me was I see that I had to go through that to see like, wow, all these ordinary moments, like what I would give now just to be able to sit and have a cup of tea with my mom. Like I would give everything, man. But the blessing now is now I have a wife and a 10-month-old baby. Had I not gone through that with my mother, it's possible I wouldn't fully appreciate
100%.
the magic of just changing my son's diapers, and just sitting around playing with him, doing nothing. I may not so now I think I'm able to fully appreciate because I look into his eyes and look into my wife's eyes and I realize none of this is a right. It's just a privilege. And so it's that time with my mother during that year, it's helped me take nothing for granted, nothing. And it was a beautiful moment because I remember about 7 months into the process, the doctors finally said to my mother, look, there's nothing that we can do for you. You're going to die. So get your affairs in order. You're going to die. And I looked at my mother, this little Japanese woman, and I said to her 2 questions. Number 1, Mom, are you afraid? And my mother looked at me and she said, no, I'm not afraid because I know I'm not this body. This body is just a temporary vehicle for my soul. And this body will go, like all of us, we will die. But my soul, what I really am, is eternal. So I'm not afraid. And I knew in that moment, I felt in that moment her knowing, her conviction. And it gave me so much strength because I realized it wasn't a gimmick. It wasn't for social media. It was just her deep internal knowing of who she was. And then I looked my mother in the eyes and I said to her, what can I do for you? I want to be a good son. I feel like I haven't been a good son. I love my mom, but I feel like, wow, I so much I should have done. I could have done. I wish I had done. And I said, what can I buy for you? Where do you want to fly? Where do you want to go? And my mother looked at me and she said, there's nothing I need. There's nothing I want. The only thing I want is what God wants for my life. And that was the moment where I felt it. I knew. It wasn't even a religious thing. It's just a spiritual transmission where I knew that she wasn't attached to dying. She wasn't attached to living. She was completely surrendered to the highest unfolding of her soul, the highest unfolding of her destiny. And that's when I just knew that she was free. And that's when I really felt how powerful surrender is. Like, I just want to make clear, like, surrender isn't giving up. Like, just to make clear, especially for those leaders listening, what do you mean, guys? Just sit around, do nothing, sit around, watch TV, sit around. We got to make shit happen. No, let me be clear. Surrender isn't sit around and be lazy. It is listening and tuning in. As a leader, especially, listening and tuning in to the deeper calling in your soul, sitting down and tuning in to what your soul is guiding you to do, sitting down and tuning in to what the deepest impulse of what you feel life is seeking to manifest and express through you. Sometimes the guidance as a leader that you're given is not what you think, is not what you want, is not always convenient, is not always comfortable, is not always expected. Sometimes it's exactly what you don't want to do, but your soul will guide you. As a leader, you must listen. That is listening to your soul. And so surrender might mean you sometimes do what you don't feel like doing. Surrender might mean you sometimes follow the path of the calling you're given, but you may not feel in the mood. But I don't feel in the mood. I never felt like in the mood to write my book. I never felt I'd rather be playing, on the beach, watching a movie. So sometimes surrender means, it doesn't mean you follow the fleeting mood in the moment. It means you follow the deeper commitment to your soul's expression. which might mean sometimes you take the hard path, which might mean once you catch that vision, it might mean you work 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day. Gandhi wasn't lazy. Jesus wasn't lazy. Muhammad Ali wasn't lazy. Mandela, what I mean, they worked. So it might mean you sometimes do some of the things you don't feel like doing,
Yes.
because sometimes don't mistake surrender with doing whatever you want.
Yeah.
Don't. I'm just gonna flow in. This is a mistake people make. I'm just gonna flow in surrender, and I'm just kind of. I feel attracted to this chick over here, and even though I'm married and I have an agreement, but I'm just gonna flow, and we're gonna have a. I'm gonna cheat on my wife. That's not freaking surrender. That's just following the biological urge of being a slave to your biology. Like surrender means, I just feel to have this fourth tub of Haagen-Dazs at 11 p.m. That's not surrender. That is being lazy, right? That is again being a slave to your urges. So sometimes surrender means saying no to the fleeting mood in the moment, so that you can say yes to something higher. To me, that is true leadership. 100%. And when you follow what is true, when you follow the deeper guidance, that is when you can truly lead, and that is when people will trust you, because they will trust you as a leader, because they will know that you're not just doing whatever you want to do, you're following something deeper than yourself.
100%. And my 20s, I was a hotshot. Like there was no following on my part. A bit of an antagonistic spirit. I didn't really seek out wisdom. Like a lot of elder energy would have been a bit like, stale and irrelevant. So as a young lad, I was like, I've got an idea. I'm just gonna kind of go for it, and I was quite effective. In a Newtonian world, I was quite effective, right? I think sometimes the business world, as it currently is, rewards people who work their face off, right? But because I was too attached to that stuff, because I needed too much in return, particularly from a young lad's raised single parent family, I used a lot of my business efforts to get a lot of the affirmation and validation back in return. So inevitably it brought me suffering, and therefore the people around me suffering. And it's interesting, because I'd never have said to be a better leader you need to be a better follower, but in the last sort of 5 years I've adopted Jesus as my king, and
amazing.
And I finally got to a position where I understand that I'm a better leader because I'm a better follower.
Yeah.
Because I've got something else.
Jesus gave the code.
Yeah, right.
5,000 people, feeding 5,000, turning water into wine. You never heard Jesus once say, "Yo, everybody, I'm the man."
Yeah.
I'm the
Jesus
bomb.
on social.
Like I'm the bomb. Look at the miracles. Here's the code, and here's surrender. See, surrender is about getting yourself out of the way.
Yes.
Jesus said, it's not I that does the work. It's the Father that does the work through me. And when we understand that, whatever people might believe, some Jesus, some Buddha, some whatever, to me, that's each person's path. But the deep realization that Jesus, a master teacher, knew that it wasn't him as an individualized ego self, but it was the divine source, God, the divine intelligence that was doing the work. When we can surrender ourselves, every truly great one, and Jesus was a truly great one, realized as they surrendered, they transcended their ego. As they surrendered, they went beyond their human limitations and tapped into another dimension of life. That's when life was able to use them. That's when God was able to use them and manifest through them in ways that they could not have done with their own human personal power. And that is the dimension of grace. When you truly surrender, that's when grace flows. And what you can do on your own is nothing compared to what God, what the universe, what life can do through you.
And I don't know about you, because obviously you came into faith, or that environment at such a young age. But I came into it in my 30s, and so many people I speak to who also come into it late. There's this period of, okay, I've awakened, my eyes are open, and it's almost like God just shows off. It's like, I'm going to reveal so much beauty in your life. I'm gonna make things possible that transcend your understanding. And it's almost like we've become in harmony with this life source, that things happen far beyond. I think
Mhm.
Sadhguru, I like punchy quotes that really kind of get your attention. I think Sadhguru said, I hope all your dreams don't come true, because for your dreams are limited by what you can imagine. I hope
Yeah,
far greater things happen for you.
that's surrender, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes your dreams not manifesting is grace.
Right.
If everybody, right? If everyone, just as an example, if everybody, you think about, you go back 5 years, 10 years, however many years ago, you think about the person you fell madly in love with back then. You thought, oh, they're my soulmate. They're the one. You were so in love. You thought you were in love, right? And you couldn't imagine not being with this person. We all have one or two of those people. And then you broke up, and then you were heartbroken, and you felt cursed, felt you never find love again. Now in 2024, you think back to that relationship, you look back at that person, and you think to yourself, how many can have this experience? You think to yourself, thank God that didn't work out.
Yeah, which is wonderful, isn't it? That's wisdom. I know you talk about practical wisdom for modern times. I think learning to learning. So it's easy to look back and reflect and go, well, if that didn't happen, then I wouldn't be sat here and benefiting from whatever this
Yeah,
situation is. So
yeah,
I've always had this phrase: if I love my life as it is, I can't hate what got me here, right? But I
yes,
think some of the wisdom is going, okay, I've had a few enough of those experiences. So the next time I'm going through pain and suffering, I'm going to see if I can like worship from the lion's den. Can I be grateful for whatever situation I'm going through? Not, I think you described this nicely in your book, the acceptance. It's not whatever's
yeah,
going on is acceptable, but can I be in acceptance and in harmony with this present moment?
yeah. And it's when things don't work out according to your plan,
Yeah.
what we tend to do is contract, is collapse, and force.
Yeah.
We try to make things that aren't into something that is. Like we try to make a pineapple into an orange, but it's not. We try to make that person that's not really our soulmate into our soulmate, and it never works out.
Mm.
Only leads to stress. And so when things don't work out, step back, step back, relax, make space, and get curious. For me, curiosity is a key element of surrender. Like, what could this mean? Because what we tend to do is we impose a meaning. The
Yeah.
meaning we impose on that situation is often based on limitedness of our ego.
Yeah.
This is the worst thing. This is not. This is this. This is that. This is this. It means I'm not enough. Doesn't mean anything. So when you can step back and not impose a meaning on it not working out, and step back and go, and wait. Let me see what life is seeking to reveal. Let me see
Yeah.
what God is seeking to reveal. Let me see what more amazing, better person the universe is seeking to have show up in my life right now. That this person who I really love broke up with me. Let me like see. Let me get curious what the universe does in this situation.
Yeah.
So curiosity is availability. Curiosity is openness. Curiosity versus going, it's this. When you
Yeah.
hold on, you put a limitation on life, like it's this. But when you curious, you're available, like I'm available. Now there's no limits to what the universe can do in that moment. And I think that's when you begin to experience the miraculous, because you're not close.
Yes.
Many times we don't realize, but we are the ones that are blocking life,
Yes.
because we are like, I want my peanut. I visualize the peanut. I wanted a peanut since I was a child. And damn it, I'm gonna read 7,000 books. I'm gonna go to that self-help course, and I'm gonna manifest a peanut. And we hold so tightly to this damn peanut. And we don't realize that we're not, our hands aren't open to
Yes.
receiving the buffet. Life is trying to give you a buffet,
Yes.
but we're like, no, it's got to be this freaking peanut, man. Ryan, give me this peanut. I just want this peanut. I got to be this peanut. Nothing else but this peanut. But like life is like, but I want to give you this whole infinite buffet. but we're not able to see that. We're not
Yeah.
receptive to that. So when we can just be open and go, okay, let's see. Let's see. There's a few reasons why things don't manifest. Maybe I'll leave people with this. Number one, the goal that you think is the goal is not really in alignment with your soul's highest intention. It's just what you think should be. And sometimes goals can be projections of unmet needs from childhood. Weren't enough, didn't feel loved. So if I can just make $1 billion, then get the Ferrari, then I'm going to be enough. And then we achieve it, but it's not really aligned. And so sometimes things don't manifest because it's not quite aligned. So we have to step back and pray, meditate, be still, listen, catch a new vision for what is truly authentic. Number two, sometimes it's just not time yet. It's not the season. The mango isn't ripe yet. But the ego, we just want what we want and we want it now. But if it's not time yet, and so many of us, we're experiencing unripe relationships because we're trying to force things, and we compare ourselves based on everyone else, and we try to force our life to be something that is not quite fitting in. So again, we have to step back and trust divine timing, trust the season. Everything has a season. Sometimes as human beings, we exhaust ourselves. So when we should be still, we're pushing, forcing. So that now when it's time to act, we're so exhausted because we didn't rest when it was time to be still. So when it's time to act, we're exhausted and now we want rest. So we have to learn to bring ourselves in harmony with timing of life. Everything has a rhythm and a cycle. And to everything, there is a season and a time under the sun. Number three, third reason why things sometimes don't manifest is the goal or the vision that you have. You have not learned the lessons on a spiritual level where you are with who you're with. I believe that we're souls. We're souls. We incarnate into this human experience to learn, to grow, to evolve. Metaphorically, I kind of liken life to a university. It's a university for our soul's evolution, and everyone is your teacher. Everything is your curriculum. And so all lessons are repeated until learned. And so one of the reasons why sometimes things don't manifest is because you have not learned the lesson where you are. And so you keep cycling through the same experiences, the same level, the same relationships over and over and over again. And so when things don't break through or manifest to that next level, step back, meditate, pray, listen, reflect, and ask yourself, why did my soul attract this situation? What is my soul seeking to learn? What is it that I'm resisting learning that I need to learn? Because when you can learn the lesson where you are with who you're with, that is the key that unlocks the lock to the next level of your life and the next level of manifestation.
Oh man, I could talk to you all day. It's been an enriching conversation, my friend, and I want to be super respectful of your time. I have a word here at Always Better Than Yesterday. It's called Heartprint, and the word symbolizes really the impact that we have in the lives of other people. You know, the possibilities that we create, the ripple effect. I just wonder if you preflect to the end of your days and you can look back on your life. And I just love for you to have a little think about what you hope your heartprint will be.
Wow. I want people to love more, man. That's the bottom line. At the end of the day, nothing else really matters. You can have $1 billion, but you can't take any of it with you. You could have $100 billion, but you're not going to wear more underwear. You're not going to wear more socks at one time. You're only going to drive one car. And so I just want everyone to love deeply, look into the eyes of those you love. Because the truth is we're all going to die. And none of us know when that moment will come. And so if I would invite people to think about, if you knew the date and time of your death, God said to you, here's the moment you're going to die.
Yeah.
Here's the date, 2000, and would you be ready? Would it change how you're living? Because it's the only guarantee. We're born and we die. And somehow when we all die, we're so surprised. But it's guaranteed. And many of us, we live like tomorrow is some divine right, but it's not. The only thing that is our right is, you could say, this moment right now. Every other moment in the future is grace. It's a miracle. It's a blessing that we're given by life itself, by God. And so if death came, would you be ready? If not, why not? What would you need to do? What would you need to say? What would you need to give? What would you need to express so that you could die with no regrets? And yeah, love now, everyone. That's kind of what I want people to do. Love more fully.
Love now. Oh, I love that. Brother, so deeply grateful for you. God bless you and your family. Where can people connect with you and discover more of your work?
Yeah, I would say first get the book, The Magic of Surrender. It's available on Amazon. Get the paperback version there. I wrote it in such a simple way. The second thing is, depending on when people listen to this, if you've been inspired by the conversation, I want to invite everyone to a very special event I'm doing. This is the last year that I'm doing this event, 2024, actually. 2023 was the last year I was going to, but I'm extended for one more year. It's called Boundless Bliss, the Bali Breakthrough Experience. It's 12 days with me in Bali. It will potentially be one of the most life-changing events of your life, should you choose to say yes to it. It's not for everyone, but if you're someone, you feel a calling to make a difference on the planet, you feel you're ready to heal, to transform, to connect with your power and your light and your voice and share your gifts with the world, join me this July the 20th through the 31st in Bali. And I use Bali as a seminar room to facilitate a life-changing process to help you free yourself and uncondition yourself. You can go to www.boundlessblissbali.com. That's boundlessblissbali.com. Yeah, watch the video, apply for an interview, and we'll begin exploring. My main website is Kute, K-U-T-E, KuteBlackson.com. Say hi there. Instagram, Kute Blackson. Facebook, Kute Love Now. And my podcast is called Soul Talk.
Beautiful. I'll add all those links in the show notes. Brother, I'll be honored if you'd leave us a final thought from your good self.
Wow. Surrender is the password to freedom. And if you want more magic in your life, surrender is the key. And the degree of magic you will experience in your life is in direct proportion to the degree that you surrender. Surrender.
I appreciate it, my friend. Hey, my friends, thank you for making it to the end. I hope that our time spent together today has left you a little bit better than before you push play. I'd really appreciate if you just took a moment to leave a review to allow me to meet more people where they are and hopefully leave them a little bit better too. If you're curious to know how I, through Always Better Than Yesterday, can serve you, your team, your organisation, then head to alwaysbetterthanyesterday.com to connect. And while you're there, let me know one or two things that you're going to do as a result of listening to this conversation. I absolutely love hearing your thoughts, your reflections, and the things that this spark in your own heart and mind. If you want more insights from my heart and mind, I do send out short episodes on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, and again, I hope that they serve you well. I appreciate you listening. I'm Ryan Hartley, host of the Always Better Than Yesterday podcast, a podcast for heart-centered leaders just like you. Keep leading, my friends. Always love.